For centuries, rumors have circulated of another lost world, of a mythical race of warriors said to be the most violent people that ever walked the earth, and they were women. The Amazons. Were they fact or fiction? Did they ever really exist?
The Amazons were a dream that men created, and that they were created not to glorify women, but to glorify men. The Amazon existed to be conquered.
It was the ancient Greeks who were the first to write about Amazons in about 700 BC. Both Homer and Herodotus described this legendary tribe. But were they just creating lurid stories to stir the imagination with their depiction of murderous, passionate women?
Somewhere at the outer reaches of the known world was a culture where strong women had strong roles, action-oriented roles.
The Greek writers depicted Amazons as fearless women who killed without mercy. The Greek word Amazon means with one breast, and in ritualistic ceremonies, Amazons were said to remove their right breast with fire so they could aim and shoot a bow more easily. The Amazons were reputed to use men only for mating and kill all male babies born to them.
To defeat an Amazon was a test of manhood, not just for men in general, but for the best men, the greatest heroes. You had to be a Heracles or a Theseus or an Achilles to defeat one.
The Amazons described by the Greeks were phenomenal foes, but more forbidding were the tales of warrior women told by Spanish conquistadors traveling through the remote rainforests of South America in the 16th century. In the summer of 1542, Spanish soldiers sailed from Europe to the New World, lured by the promise of gold. On their long days at sea, perhaps their imaginations were fired by strange tales told by other travelers that had gone before them. When they reached the Americas, they set off deep into the jungle in search of treasure. They were full of fear and anticipation as they entered this exotic new world. Returning, they recounted fantastic stories of seeing bands of armed women patrolling the forest. Others talked of native men being used as slaves, and of male babies being killed or given away in disgust to neighboring tribes. Most distressing, some had seen the bodies of Indian men hanging from trees alongside rivers, an obvious warning for those who dare travel on Amazon lands. These stories were dismissed as hearsay and rumor until a written account came to light in 1542 from the diary of Gaspar Carvajal, a friar traveling with an expedition of men searching for the mystical city of El Dorado.
We suddenly came upon the excellent land of the Amazons. These women are white and tall and have very long braided hair. They are very robust with their bows and arrows in their hands, doing as much fighting as Indian men.
When they saw these women standing along the riverbank, and they associated that with the Amazons, with fighting women, and that's how the Amazon River actually got its name.
Scholars debated whether the Spanish actually encountered Amazons in the jungle, or if the conquistadors' imaginations just got the best of them.
There's always the question, how much of it was real? We'll never know. After all, Indian men don't have hairy chests, and they do have long hair. So it's a question as to how many of these fighting warriors were actually female.
The story of fierce Amazon tribes stretched to sub-Saharan Africa, where bands of warrior women were known to strike fear into the hearts of their colonizers. In the spring of 1863, the British explorer Sir Richard Burton arrived in the West African coastal nation of Dahomey, present-day Benin. Known for his extensive travels in Africa and the Middle East, Burton was on a mission for the British government, trying to make peace with the Dahomey people. The Dahomey were a violent, warring nation who actively participated in the slave trade, turning it to their advantage as they captured and sold their tribal enemies. But it was the elite ranks of Dahomey warriors who amazed Burton. They were women.
Such was the size of the female skeleton and the muscular development of the frame that in many cases femininity could be detected only by the bosom. I have no doubt that this physical superiority of the working sex led the Dahomey race to the employment of women as fighters. They are the domestic servants the ploughboys, the porters, and the field hands. Why should they not also be soldiers?
An estimated 5,000 female soldiers filled the elite ranks of the king's army. They were trained to be mentally as well as physically tough. A French delegation visiting Dahomey in the mid-1880s reported seeing an Amazon girl, about 16, in training. She took 3 swings with a machete before completely removing the head of a prisoner. She wiped the blood from her sword with her hand and swallowed it. Her fellow Amazons screamed in frenzied approval. An Amazon chant confirmed the pleasure derived from killing.
We are not women. We are man. Knife between our teeth, we scale the rocks. We will drive those warthogs out of their hole. For our body is better armed than the porcupines. And if we no longer had an axe, or arrow, or dagger to defend us, don't we have our filed teeth, ready to bite and tear, and our hard fingers stronger than iron claws?
Even after French expansion in Africa in the 1890s subdued the Dahomey people, the killing continued. Uniformed French soldiers who took Dahomey women to bed were often found dead in the morning, their throats ripped open. Were the Dahomey the descendants of the Amazon tribes described by the Greeks? In 1994, in Kazakhstan in Central Asia, a team of archaeologists made an astounding discovery that might place the Amazon tribe much closer to ancient Greece. Archaeologist Janine Davis Kimball was excavating a site some 2,000 years old. It was an area filled with ancient burial mounds called kurgan. The archaeologists found nothing unusual until they opened a burial mound located several yards away from the main group of graves.
And then suddenly we found this one burial with this young girl, and she had a dagger and a bunch of arrowheads and a quiver and amulets with arrowheads around her neck, all sorts of interesting things that indicated she was a warrior.
Over the next month, a dozen more graves of women warriors were uncovered. The location of this find was very significant. It was only a few hundred miles from the northern border of what was once the Greek Empire. Perhaps these armed women were the Amazons that Homer and Herodotus described. We may never know for sure, but there's no question that the myth of a race of fierce fighting women will continue to fascinate and captivate us for many years to come.